4 days, I was like, I don't think this is actually possible. I don't think I'm being a prima donna, I don't think I'm creating a scene, I just don't think this is feasibly possible. But then I thought to myself, well, I can't really just step out and say, sorry everybody, this isn't possible. You clearly have to find a way. And I just figured out, and thankfully, I had a dialect coach. That was the first time I had a dialect coach. Ray Ellen Bodie was her name, and she was like an angel that came down, and she was supposed to be there for my dialect. Now, fortunately, I'm okay generally with the dialect, and especially having spent months with her doing it, but what she turned into was my like support system. And it was very clear that I just had to remain very present constantly and not freak out about what the workload was, but just enjoy it in the time that you had and just have a bit of faith that it would kind of work out by the time the next scene came around. And it was very, very challenging, very, very challenging, but it absolutely was one of the most fulfilling, fantastic experiences I've ever had on television, so I was kind of thankful for it as well. Lost the question in my mind completely, done it again, babbled on, but told you something or other, right? It was a real privilege being on that show, that's all I will say. It was a huge honour.
This question is for both Mr. Butcher and Mr. Blackthorne. You seem to have put your traits into Harry, for example, the love of Burger King. Are there any traits that Harry has that you don't, but wish you did?
At times I kind of wish that I was a beer kind of guy. I don't actually do alcohol at all, and people will come up to me and say, "Oh, we brought you this craft beer that we thought you would just love based on reading the Dresden Files." And I'm like, "Oh, that is so sweet of you. I don't actually drink."
I do. I'll give you my number. We'll sort that out.
Now you know where to send all the alcohol.
I'm English.
Okay, over here.
Maybe that.
Okay, sure.
Hi, my question's for both of you. I was wondering what your favorite aspect of Harry Dresden is that we don't actually get to see on the book, on the page, or on the screen, as far as either backstory or personality.
For me, I think it's that Dresden he's not really interested in being a terribly heroic person. He mostly would just rather be home reading a book or maybe going and hanging out with friends, and generally sort of living a quiet life. Help somebody find their lost wedding ring. Yeah, I can totally do that. I'm happy with that, and thank you for your money, and here's your ring. But he just keeps winding up in these circumstances. But it's boring to read about that. So basically, anything that I write in the book is the worst weekend he's going to have that year. I stop and ask myself, what's the worst weekend he's going to have? Okay, that's what I need to write about, is that right there. But you don't really get to see Dresden, living the quiet life, which he does most of the time.
I'm just casting my mind back. I'm trying to think about that backstory stuff, what I would have created way back then. I remember and this was what was great actually, when the dad turned up in whatever episode that was.
Right.
Before that was ever sort of known that would be happening, I'd obviously spent a lot of time thinking about Dresden's childhood and such like, and and forgive me if this conflicts at all with whatever was created in your world, Jim, but for me it was like a lot of loneliness, you know what I mean, and a lot of like just not being able to understand himself, because obviously having some powers that you just don't understand as a child, and then how you fit in the world, and then just keeping a lid on that, and just the sort of pain of that, and knowing you're so different, but not knowing how to express it, was, here comes all that pain stuff, basically, all that weird sort of isolated pain stuff. But that was always kind of interesting to me, just thinking about this sort of slightly lonely, sort of slightly desolate childhood that he would have had, until he finally would have understood himself, at some stage later, and then even then going, oh no, really? Is this that? Once he's understood it, then going, oh, why me? So yeah.
Harry Dresden is the Charlie Brown of the urban fantasy.
That's my whole backstory. You just nailed it.
Okay, this side.
Yeah, I have a bit of a question about there's a thing on YouTube where it's the Dresden Files like fan filming, And when the Skin Game came out, they had a Skin Game trailer where they hinted at a bunch of stuff from the book, and it said they got like a free copy. I was wondering if you had any actual connection with them, or if it was just like a producer sent them a book or something.
The only connection I had with them was that I got in touch with them and asked them to do a trailer for my book. Nothing. Dresden Files Fan Film Group, or DF3, they operate out of Denver, and they've done a bunch of little Harry Dresden scenes here and there over the past several years. And I got together with them and said, hey, do you want to do a trailer for this next book? Because I'm egotistical enough to want a trailer for my book. And they were like, yes, we would love to do that. And so they got together and like, okay, show me what you can do. And they got together and they worked their butts off and to produce a trailer that came out, which I was very pleased with. In as much as I think they got the mood of it just right, and they sent me the script ahead of time. I took a look at it and said, oh, okay, yeah, this looks pretty good. Maybe you should do this, or maybe you can add this bit to it. But for the most part, they're huge fans and they're huge nerds about the books, and they love the stories, and it shows in what they do.
We have a question over here.
Hi, my question is for both of you. I have heard over the years a lot of flack about the series of books being made into the TV series itself, and my question is, how have you guys responded to that, and did you ever get a lot of flack from it, and what have you done to not let that get to you?
The biggest flack that I've got was my book audience tripled in 1 year. It was difficult to deal with that. There were a lot of book readers who were like, oh my God, and I could only turn to those and go, guys, listen, it could have been a whole lot worse. I saw the first several treatments, and before Robert Wolf got a hold of the series, it could have gotten mutated a whole lot worse than it did. And actually having Robert work on it and getting to talk to him and Hans Fiedler, who was Robert's partner in writing it, they were great guys, and they had read the books and liked them. And so I was able to say, okay, here's my baby. And you have to a degree, you have to accept that when you're a writer, when you're a novelist, and your stuff goes to be made into a film, into a TV show. Your baby's going off to boarding school, and you have to be able to accept that.
Often overseas.
That's a great analogy. That's perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
See ya.
Yeah. You're releasing a lot of control over it, and I try to give all the positive feedback I could. I try to approach things in terms of what can I do to help, as opposed to what can I do to try and edit this and make it more like what I originally had. So changes got made. Harry drove an old Jeep in this one instead of an old Volkswagen, because if you want to film somebody in a Volkswagen, you've got to have an expensive Volkswagen that comes apart into teeny pieces in order to be able to film any angle other than directly ahead. So they said, you know what? It'll be a lot cheaper to just get an old Army Jeep, a Korean War Army Jeep, which really fits the same strictures on the Magical Universe, because these things are really easy to fix and put back together again, and you can run them on just about anything. So Harry really can't kill it very easily. So it would be a perfect vehicle for him, and he also, additionally, he gets to be more cold.
More misery for him to go through.
In the winter, so it's like, okay, you're right. That's a good vehicle for him to have, and they did a good job with it.
And you see, this is where the bit about the actors bit, well, that doesn't matter, because the actor will be freezing his, and yeah, it was a case of driving that thing around in the winter. And have you ever tried to drive one of those things? Gee whiz. The whole thing about TV, TV parking and TV everything is that it just happens, right? Getting into one of those things, trying to find the gear and start working, you're supposed to be just floating off, It was a very challenging vehicle to work with. It only popped up a couple of times, didn't it? It was actually clamped that one time, wasn't it, in one of the episodes, thankfully. But yeah, that was pretty challenging. But anyway, sorry.
No,
Were you done? Good. It was the flack question.
Yeah, there was some negative stuff, but you know what, I try to tell people, just enjoy it. It's a good take on it, consider it an alternate universe, and have fun.
The thing I've always heard about the book to screen sort of situation is that, the book, as you're reading words, you obviously create in your mind a universe that can't possibly be wrong in your mind because you created it, right? But then you see somebody else's interpretation of it on screen, which just by the very fact that it's different, will therefore be kind of wrong from your perception. Do you know what I'm saying? So I think that's why that's a constant sort of story with a book to screen sort of adaptation. You know what I mean? So I think it's. I'm just going to stop there. He just said it was a good observation. I'm not saying anything else. But it's something like that, right? With regard to my answering that question, the flat question, I obviously wasn't. I'm not coming from the same place as Jim in that respect. But all I've ever heard through website or social media or events is why was Dresden cancelled after one season? It was ridiculous. That's all I've ever heard. I've never heard anybody say anything bad about it. And that's been, 7 years now? So, yeah, it's extraordinary. And some things are just inexplicable, aren't they? Because there's other shows on Sci-Fi that, very happy for them, went on for a long time, but I could never put my finger on the Dresden thing.
I have my theories, and there's like pictures and bits of string that go across the room. There's no evidence for it. It's complete conspiracy theory, but I actually think that makes conspiracy theory stronger.
No evidence.
Yeah, no evidence whatsoever. It's just a theory.
Well, I think it also had to do with the show airing in a year where it was just a little before the curve that you see now, because the Blood Ties was out at the same time, and Moonlight, and none of them lasted very long, but now it would probably be a different story.
Well, that was before True Blood.
Right.
Success of True Blood. So.
Indeed.
You laid the foundation, Jim.
Yes.
He did.
Yeah, all got crushed into part of it.
Unfortunately, that is all the time we have today, folks. And let's give these gentlemen a hand.
Guys, I'm going to do one thing. I'm going to do one thing before you all step out of here. It's kind of obligatory for these panels. I've been getting into the swing of this. It's called a selfie with as many fans as possible. And in this case, Jim Butcher as well. So Jim, come up.